Welcome, everybody, to the San Antonio Realty Pros podcast. I really hope you guys enjoy this upcoming episode. We intend to bring you guys the best real estate content possible, and you never know, you might learn a thing or two. So sit back and enjoy the show.
So we've got a big thing coming down in San Antonio, and I wanted to be kind of the first to put it out there because it's that big, right? It's going to have economic impact. Mm-hmm. If you're a property owner that rents out properties in the city of San Antonio, a lot of changes. If the city goes the way that they want to go,
Right.
then I foresee the rental market in San Antonio crumbling. But that's just kind of my thoughts. But I'm gonna go over some of the documents that have been put out and kind of go over what I have seen as a professional or just as a citizen in some of these communities that do things like this. But on Wednesday, January 15th, the city of San Antonio, their governance committee is going to hear, well, they did hear, a Renters Commission Council consideration request for the first time. And what this council consideration request is, basically this council wants to adopt a lot of the ordinances that the city of Seattle have adopted in their rental market, as far as doing things like rent control, all kinds of different things. But before I get into it, I'm going to put out the governance committee's information. So when you get done hearing this, and if you're concerned about it, you can reach out to them if you're a constituent of theirs.
Where can they find this information? Is it posted online?
I'm about to do it right here. I don't know if it's online or not.
What site are you on?
It's a public release notice that was sent out.
Oh, that's what we got in our emails?
Right.
Okay, yeah.
So the members of the governance committee include Mayor Nyberg. For District 3, Adriana Garcia. District 5, Shirley Gonzalez. District 7, Anna Sandoval. District 9, John Courage. Now, this commission wants to adopt the Seattle Renters Commission recommendations. So I'm going to go over those. So the first one is rent control. So in Seattle, the Renters Commission urged the City Council to implement rent control legislation within Seattle to become effective if and when Washington lifts a statewide ban on rent control. Now, the move would apply pressure to state lawmakers to repeal the rent control ban. In Texas, there is currently a statewide ban on rent control. Okay. Now, another thing to think about before we get too much into this, if this is to pass, this commission, it will be the first in the state of Texas. So nowhere else. So San Antonio will be ground zero for this.
Wow.
Okay. So that's rent control. The second thing is eviction forgiveness. So this eviction forgiveness would prohibit landlords from using eviction records that are more than 3 years old. It would seal all eviction records after 7 years. It would provide incentives to landlords who rent to tenants with eviction records. And it would seal and or prohibit the use of eviction records that did not end in an involuntary removal, i.e., the issue was resolved by payment, the tenant voluntarily moved out, they didn't have to go through eviction court, and the constable didn't have to remove them physically from the property.
Okay.
So that's eviction forgiveness. The next one, it makes recommendations on issues beyond renters' rights, which were not in state admission. So the Seattle City Council passed legislation that would require large employers to subsidize transit ridership. It would require workers employed through public contracts to receive fully subsidized transit passes. It would require fully subsidized transit passes for all university employees and make mobility a human right. which I didn't know that mobility wasn't a human right.
I didn't know that was not a thing.
Right. So I learned something new, right?
Right.
But I guess my mobility is a right.
Yeah.
Versus I don't know. But so the fourth thing, eviction moratorium during winter months.
Oh, here we go. This is going to be.
So it would mandate a pause on evictions from November 1st through March 31st for the express purpose of stopping displacement to the streets during the coldest months of the year.
Man.
Now, in Massachusetts has been doing this for years. And what happens is, because I have family that live up there and they owned rental properties, and they sold their rental properties after this stuff started happening. Basically, they would have people move in, pay the deposits, pay the first month's rent, not pay anything through the end of March or whenever it was in the state of Massachusetts, and then they would leave. So through the winter, they would have a place to stay for free.
Right.
Right, and the landlord couldn't do nothing about it. He couldn't evict them, especially if they had a child.
That's messed up.
So, if you come over here and you bring this over here to San Antonio, although we're not cold, really the cold, like in the Northeast and the Pacific Northwest, but if they did that, you could have a bunch of people moving in November and not paying through November and March, and then moving out before they get evicted, and you roll back to having sealed and or prohibited use of eviction records that did not end in an involuntary removal.
Yeah, so now you got homeowners that are leasing out their properties that can't thoroughly vet anybody that could be a potential issue down the road, and that's going to be a tough one. What's the implementation date or the proposal? So
they met on the 15th of January,
right,
to kind of start talking about this. So nothing's been implemented yet. So that's why you can go, and if you're like, this is stupid, this is insane. We're not California, we're not Seattle, we're not Massachusetts, we're not whatever.
Yeah.
Because this council is going to be made up of strictly renters.
Mm-hmm.
So think about it like this. And I was trying to think of an example that wouldn't offend anybody, because I'm not trying to offend anybody. So that's why I'm using speeding as an example, because we all do it.
Mm-hmm.
It's like putting speeders in charge of the speed control policies.
Mm-hmm.
Right? How do I make a rule to where it benefits me? And that's where these things come in, the extended rent increase notices that we're about to talk about, the eviction moratoriums, the renters' rights when it comes to different types of transportation, eviction forgiveness, things like that. But if you put people that are habitual speeders in charge of the speeding policy, hey, yes, so the speed limit sign does say 55. I was going 85.
Mm-hmm.
But because the road wasn't wet, you can't hold me accountable for that.
Right.
Right? It's kind of creating rules like that, and that's what this is, where you're putting the demographics of renters in charge of coming up with the rules for renting. Right? So basically what this is doing is severely undercutting the property owner, right? That's kind of like, let's say the city of San Antonio goes to Walmart. It says you can't charge more than 30 cents for this item.
Mm-hmm.
Why? It cost me 30 cents to just have it, or I have no profit. Now you think about this rent control stuff, right? Well, taxes and insurance are always going up, and if you rent control it to where you can't raise the rent, then the owners are going to have a loss. And who's going to rent out houses at a loss? So then they're going to, the affordable housing is going to go away. These owners are going to start selling their properties. See, it's the bat phone. It's the mayor. He's like, stop talking about me.
Right. He's like, hey, y'all can't be talking about this stuff.
Right. It's top secret. So let's talk about extending the rent increase notices. So currently, you have to give 30 days notice in advance of the lease expiring to say the rent is going up. Right? So you got 30 days to say, all right, the rent's going up $25 a month. Do I want to do it or not? And if not, I need to go find a new place. If I do, then I'll sign whatever the document is, and then carry on like normal.
Yeah.
Pretty easy. Well, now they want 180 days notice that the rent's going to go up. So what that's going to do if they don't do the rent control, right, but they do this, now I think this is going to hurt the tenants because in 180 days, the property owners may not have their taxes for the next year. Mm-hmm. They may not have their insurance, so they're going to probably start arbitrarily assuming what it's going to go up. And instead of maybe going up $25 a month, it's now going to go up $50 because they're not sure what that increase is going to be.
Right.
So 180-day notice for rent increases, which is 6 times the current standard in Seattle, which is the same as here. Yeah. So 30 days currently. So they're going to make a budget recommendations to the city council. So to fund legal services for renters facing evictions. So if you don't pay your rent from November to March, you can't get evicted. But when March comes, then the city will subsidize attorneys to represent the renters facing eviction for not paying the rent.
Yeah, and then so what are we left to do then at that point? I mean, as a homeowner, you're putting, what's that? 4 months, 5 months.
November, December, January, February, March. Yeah, so 5 months.
5 months of rent, and holdovers are already not holdovers, but vacancies are already an expensive part of owning properties. Anytime you got a vacancy, it's expensive. Especially if your mortgage payment is, and say you're leasing the property out, and you really just aren't making that much off the property. Minus the fees and all that stuff from your management company. But, what are we supposed to do as homeowners that are renting out our property? That's going to be, if I was anybody else, I would definitely start keeping an eye on this because this could be detrimental to the rental.
It would be tragic.
Yeah.
Right. So the other thing they're looking at doing is having mandatory housing affordability requirements
like
to where,
caps?
what they want to do is they want to pass mandatory housing affordability in all neighborhoods across the city and mandate that the housing provided be affordable indefinitely. So what you have is a government trying to dictate how a private party can operate their business.
Right.
Now I get, there's the federal fair housing laws, which you need to abide by.
Yeah.
But when it comes to setting up the rent rates, when you can evict a tenant because they aren't paying the rent, that's kind of overstretching.
Yeah.
You won't see them go around to Walmart or Target or Best Buy and say, hey, you know what? They can go and take that TV from March
right
or from November to March. They can take that TV and use it all the time, and you can't bill them for it.
That's crazy.
That's exactly what they're doing if this gets passed, that's exactly what they're doing to property owners. They're saying you cannot charge, if those people don't pay for the services,
right, you
can't kick them out.
That's crazy. That's insanity, man. I just don't feel like that's going to be, I don't know if it'll pass or not, but if it does, it's going to be bad news bears for everybody involved. I don't like it already.
Yeah. So here's a little recap that SABOR, the San Antonio Board of Realtors, put out. So since its inception in 2017, Seattle Renters Commission has recommended several anti-landlord, anti-property rights legislation to the city council. So we kind of talked about it, the rent control, the eviction forgiveness, eviction moratorium, extending rent increased notice periods, mandatory housing affordability, and making recommendations well beyond the stated mission, which requires large employers to subsidize transit ridership and make mobility a human right. So how does a group of renters kind of go around and dictate what big companies have to do as far as transportation? I don't know. It's just they're trying with this commission. There's no checks and balances, right? They can just make all these recommendations all they want, and as long as it gets approved through the city governance committee, then it becomes law. So I think that this is going to be a big uphill battle. But if you noticed in the news yesterday, the amount of people coming from California to Texas increased by 36% this year.
Oh, really?
Yeah. So
when did that come on? Where was that at?
I want to say it was on KSAT.
Oh, okay. So it's a local news channel.
Local news channel, yeah.
Well,
and that the increase of Californians moving to Texas increased by 36%. And there's nothing wrong about Californians, most of them, right? But if you keep running away from the state because of their political policies that have set your country or your state up for failure, and you bring them over here and you have that same thought processes, then all you're doing is relocating the problem. But and I'm not saying that this is a derivative of it, but they're moving. Like I used to live in Austin. Austin's not the Austin I used to live in. It is very, and I'm not trying to get political, but it is very leftist.
Yeah.
Right. But if you look at the election maps, all the urban cities, Houston, Austin, Dallas, Fort Worth, San Antonio, are predominantly leftist. And if you notice, that's where all this stuff's coming from, and then it's going to spread out.
Yeah, I think when I was in that GRI class this past week, they had a bunch of statistics about the amount of people moving, and there's a way we can run a report. And what I'll do at some point is go in there, and maybe we'll catch on the next podcast episode. But we can go through those stats, and you can get those from NAR, and it can actually show you the stats on by county. So that we as real estate agents can go in there and explain to people that are selling or buying, where the people are moving from and to, and out of state, out by county. You can do it all. Like, okay, everybody's moving from, like right now, a lot of people are moving from McAllen area, the valley, and they're moving into the San Antonio area, into the Bexar County. So you can see by county, like which counties are relocating to which other county, and then you can do it by state and all that. So you do see a lot of that. A lot of people from these northern states and California for sure are moving in large numbers. And like you said, with that, it comes a lot of issues. Because I truly believe, like, if you want to go to a different area, you have to be able to kind of mold to the society that you're moving
assimilate to the what you're going to versus making them assimilate.
Don't bring your bad ideas here. I agree with that 100%. And that report is on there. And another thing that I would challenge you guys to do, this is something that I really didn't know was even on, but you can go on YouTube and you can type in the search bar Texaplex, and there's a video about Texas and its economy and the way things are. I'm not sure how updated the video is, but it's pretty recent. But it's called the Texaplex, and it just explains how economically important the state of Texas is to the United States, and explains how large of a landmass the state of Texas is.
Well, Texas is the third largest oil-producing entity in the world.
Yeah. So if you go in there and watch that video, maybe I'll try to grab that audio and stick it into the end of the episode on this episode. So it's about a 8-minute video. Yeah. Maybe I'll grab the audio and stick it in there. I think it's a cool thing for people to understand. Texas is basically its own economy. I mean, we produce, I think the GDP that Texas produces is the largest GDP out of the whole country. Just what we export and make for a gross domestic product. And that's a lot to say. I mean, it's big, what we produce here. And then a lot of people want to be part of that. But don't let all these new ideas that are coming in sway you and all that stuff. Make sure you do your research, and hopefully as this program kind of goes along, we can kind of keep an eye on it and keep you guys updated on it. But I think if you're a property owner now, if you don't let us manage your property at this point, maybe if you got any questions or you don't understand something, definitely reach out to David and myself, because we're trying to stay ahead of this, as much as possible.
Well, and here's the thing, right? So, because this podcast isn't supposed to be, it's not going to be politically geared or nothing like that. I know we've talked about stuff about trying to produce facts versus opinion.
Yeah, well, we're getting this stuff directly in black and white writing.
Yeah, well, so the mayor's housing framework already exists. And what it does is there's, where is it at? The city of San Antonio currently has 6 different boards, commissions, and corporations available to renters to get involved with and have their voices heard. These boards are devoted to everything from homelessness and vulnerable populations to workforce housing and the delivery of services for low and moderate income families. And these groups ensure renters not only have a tool through which their voices can be heard, but also a mechanism through which there can be constructive and meaningful dialogue with the city and its partners. So whereas this rental commission would strictly be just renters, what they're saying is the city already has 6 different entities that focus on rental issues that the renters can be part of. And what's important about that is it has everybody in that pot. So everybody's voices are heard, right? So it's not putting the speeders in charge of the speed control policies depending on the weather. Right. So it also says that under the mayor's affordable housing framework, San Antonio will continue to be a leader in tenant protection, combining the needs for housing production, protection, and preservation strategies to increase housing security and alleviate effects from climate change, natural disasters, and increased health risks caused by unhealthy housing. Additionally, I don't know if you saw it today, but the city of San Antonio won a $10 million grant on working on fighting homelessness.
Yeah, I heard about that. And hopefully that they do something positive with it. I mean, there's so much corruption going around that these people are getting busted now because there's so much more transparency, right, with the news and people getting sources. You saw the thing about Puerto Rico where these people found these warehouses
full of stuff from the last hurricane.
Yeah, and then so these people that were in charge of this program, I mean, they're just as corrupt as can be, and they're taking this stuff and hoarding it and selling it off to these major corporations or selling it off to whoever.
Well, there was a FEMA administrator that just got arrested for accepting bribes from the company that got a $175 million contract to put the electricity grid back on. Yeah. Did you see here in San Antonio, even the mayor got some campaign contributions. He's giving them back now, but he got some campaign contributions from the company that got the city's contract for all the emergency radios. Yeah, that's right. And that goes all the way up to, I want to say it was up to Amarillo or San Angelo. One of those cities too was involved, but was with the same company. It's just the more stuff you add to politicians, or the more that people create, the more opportunity you have for corruption. Yeah, especially if you've already got these stuff set up in other little fashions, you're going to just muddy the water. Right now, so under the anti-displacement, it's already being addressed as well. So the city of San Antonio is working towards an anti-displacement agenda to build expertise, expand capacity, and serve the community's needs. There's a risk mitigation fund is one component of the mayor's policies framework, which provides immediate assistance to those that are battling displacement. This fund offers support through relocation assistance for households that are directly displaced through emergency situations to help households stay housed in a moment of crisis, and creates a rental incentive fund to help the most vulnerable households with barriers for finding affordable housing. So if you, like a couple weeks ago, there was an apartment complex that caught on fire and several families were displaced, right? Well, you can't help that. They're paying so this fund is designed to help them get into a new place, right? And if you work with the city, I guess the city kind of gives you a kickback back. It's not necessarily saying kickback, but it said rental incentive fund to help the most vulnerable. And then as far as removing barriers to affordable housing, the committee is meeting regularly to evaluate the Uniform Development Code and eliminate bureaucratic regulations that serve as roadblocks to housing development. The panel is also exploring other tools to encourage and increase the development of affordable housing for families. Additionally, several policies are being developed to help prevent displacement with the help of the community-based organizations and national technical support through the For Everyone Home initiative. So they're already doing this stuff.
Yeah. And it's that's kind of disheartening the way they got it set up. It's just...
Well, and this kind of goes into how the renters are already protected under law. We kind of talked about it a little bit. but under federal law, it prohibits discrimination based on race, color, religion, sex, handicap, family status, and national origin. State and local codes govern the relationships between renters and their landlords and set a basic standard for living conditions for the renting class. As rents have risen throughout the city in recent years, San Antonio has taken a series of steps to prevent discrimination and ensure that renters are treated fairly. So, I mean, they're already protected by federal law.
Yeah.
So, I mean, it's just all kinds of different things in this little memo that was put out by Cibolo. They're talking about the tenant advocacy groups that are available out there, and how that renters do have a voice, and that the city has proven their commitment to strengthening the connection between city government and the people through outlets like the SA Speak Up program, which is a public platform where renters can share their ideas to make their community a better place by participating in quick surveys or meeting up with city officials at community events and open houses. And then the city just finished a summer-long program that was set up through the public campaign involving San Antonio's or SA Speak Up on housing and community initiative budget to gather input on how the allocation of $20.9 million in FY 2020 in the entitlement funding should be utilized. Mm-hmm. Additionally, those surveys can be narrowly tailored to a renting audience, ensuring that the collection of real-time data will evaluate what works and determines how the program impacts both their users and the general public. The city already has and is actively trying to make sure that the residents, including renters, get a say in how the city grows. While the intended goals of the Residential Renters Commissions are admirable, the San Antonio Board of Realtors feels that these actions are achieved through other mechanisms that the city already currently has undergoing, right? And Cibolo is committed to helping the city maintain the current affordable housing policy measures explicitly recommended in the housing policy framework and avoid adding new redundant boards and commissions which undoubtedly disrupt effectiveness and efficient public policy creation. So that's kind of a takeout from what Cibolo's got going on, and then what the city put out for through their government affairs division and whatnot. So again, if you are concerned about this because you own a rental property in the city of San Antonio, or you're thinking about buying a rental property in the city of San Antonio, or you have family members that own rental properties in the city of San Antonio, and you feel that this commission is potential harming to their way of life, to their business, you can reach out to Mayor Nyberg. And if you're in District 3, Adriana Garcia. District 5, Shirley Gonzalez. District 7, Anna Sandoval. And District 9, John Courage. Those are the 5 people that are on the governance committee, and they're the ones that are hearing the recommendations for the council consideration requests for the Renters Commission.
So what we're saying right now is this is only affecting the city of San Antonio.
Right. This is only the city of San Antonio, and nothing's taken effect yet.
So they're in the city limits.
Yeah. So, 2 miles down the street.
Yeah.
So if you have a concern about this, share it with your representative, right? Even though that you might be in District 1, 2, 4, 6, and 8, which aren't represented on the governance committee, it doesn't mean you can't go to your city council member and say, hey, look, I just heard this. Give me more information. What does it mean? I've just basically read it right from the city and right from Cibolo is what I was reading. So it wasn't my interpretation. I was pretty much reading verbatim what was going on.
Yeah.
But tell them, hey, I don't like this. The government shouldn't tell me how I can run my business. You're not going to go around and tell Best Buy that people can go in from November to March, utilize all their services and stuff like that, and not pay for it.
Yeah, it's just a terrible. I mean, the good thing it doesn't affect a lot of people. Well, it doesn't affect anybody outside of San Antonio. But
no, not yet.
If it starts in one area like that, then it'll go countywide or statewide.
Well, here's take my word on this.
Testing ground.
If it takes foot in San Antonio, the next spot's Austin.
Yeah.
And from there it will be Houston.
Yeah.
And then from there it will be Dallas, Fort Worth.
Yeah.
And then it'll start being in some of these other little towns, maybe like Plano or something like that, the bigger ones.
Right.
Do I see that happening in Cibolo, Schertz, New Braunfels? I don't.
Yeah.
But I see it happening. If it takes, even if it doesn't take hold in San Antonio, I can see it starting in. They starting to try it in Austin or Houston next.
Yeah. No, I think it's something to watch out for. I really hate that. That's, this is like their little test, like their little, agenda test. Like, hey, we're just going to stick this out there and see what happens. If we get a bunch of fire back from it, and we're going to,
just another way of controlling everything, right?
Yeah.
If you look at how, and again, I'm not trying to be political here, but if you look at communism and socialism, and you look at some of the aspects that are inside of this recommendation, and you do an unbiased side-by-side comparison, you're going to see a lot.
Yeah. No, for sure.
You are. So it happens a little bit at a time, and then before you know it, it's a big chunk's gone.
Mm-hmm.
So.
Man, enough bad news. What's good going on?
Oh, nothing much, man. I got a listing appointment Sunday. I got a closing on the 28th. I got a closing on the 17th.
Did you get your other issue straightened out with your pushback date? You had one that got pushed over some silly issues.
No, that one went away.
That one went away.
Yeah, that one went away. They're going to go back to renting for a year maybe, and then try again and have a new one built. There's just a lot of issues were happening with the builder, and at the time when the house was supposed to be completed,
it wasn't complete.
It wasn't 100%, and they're like, I'm not paying 100% for a 98% house, and they terminated their contract on closing day, which is the first for me. But
wow,
But the main thing is making sure that they're buying something that works for them.
Yeah,
because it's a big investment. So I'm not mad or anything like that. I'm kind of disappointed because they put a lot of effort into it. Yeah. It was the first house they picked everything out. But
is this the one you did the groundbreaking ceremony for?
Yep, we did the groundbreaking ceremony. It was the one that the plumbers messed up the measurements and ended up putting the bathroom in the bedroom. And then they had to deal with that. So this is
those clients.
Yeah, so I
don't blame them.
Yeah,
it was too much.
Yeah, it was a bad experience for them, and they didn't want to live in a house where every time they looked at something, they were angry about it.
Yeah,
so
I don't blame them, man. That's a tough. You try to get started out on the right foot, and then the next thing you know,
curveball. But yeah, so we're doing good. We got 2 agents on board. We've got 2 more that are coming on board, and then we've got 3 more that are potentially going to come on board. So I think we're doing pretty good. Our goal was to try and get 6 agents a year, and I think we're going to have that taken care of first quarter.
Yeah, our first quarter goal was 3, and we've already got the 2. So
yeah,
ain't even February yet.
Yeah.
So we got a couple. What I want to start doing, I was mentioning this to David earlier, is I want to get the agents on the podcast, and just kind of introduce them and let's talk about them, and maybe get their name out there a little bit better. And something's going on with my website. I'm getting kind of angry with it right now. But I was trying to go into the podcast to a website, but it's not working. But yeah, we're going to try to get the agents on and do an introduction podcast with them if they feel comfortable doing that. I'm pretty sure they will because they're real estate agents. They always want to talk, right? So
it's different when you got a microphone all in your face. And
everybody gets so intimidated when they come in here. They're like, oh, like we had the flooring guy, Mike, in here, and he was just kind of, it was funny because he was just like very timid, really.
Yes, sir.
Yes, sir. He's like, yes, sir. And it was just, I laughed listening to that episode, and it was a good episode, but it was just funny that some people just aren't comfortable on the microphone, but it's not that bad. I mean, I think the thing that you're going to see, and I keep saying this about every couple of episodes that we put out, we're going to start doing video, but I've just got to get the camera stuff worked out.
Well, and the weather hasn't been working out for us either.
Yeah. And I was in classes like for last week, so we didn't put an episode out last week. No, this week. Yeah. We didn't put an episode out this Wednesday, but this one will drop this coming Wednesday. And then we should have, unless you want to do an immediate release, I can do an immediate release.
Matters not to me.
Yeah, so I just figured, but we want to try to get some, episodes recorded and start working it in. We've got this new thing now where if you see us on Facebook, you'll see these new clip of the days, and every time we drop an episode, it does a full video. And it's not like a interactive video that you actually watch people on the screen. What it is it has like our logo and then a soundbite kind of waveform of the sound when we talk. It's got that on there, but it's just got the episode name, and it's just a small clip, a 60-second clip that it puts one out every day. So I share that to the Facebook and social media stuff, and then every week when we drop a full episode, it takes that audio and creates a full length audio video for the Facebook and for YouTube and stuff like that. So I've been putting those on. So, but we're slowly tipping our toes into the water on the video stuff, and I just got to get the camera stuff worked out because I was going to use this GoPro. It's a 360 GoPro camera. I was going to try that, but then I was trying to find there's some software. It's called Overcapture, and what it does, because like when you watch the video in raw format from the 360 GoPro, it's like a sphere. It's really weird. But what I wanted to do was put it in here, and then I can go in and post-edit it. But I just feel like it may be a little bit harder to do. You know, you have to swing it around, and you have to pan the camera around. It's kind of tough, but you said you had that GoPro, so we may end up using the GoPro. May end up using... I mean, I know I'm going to use this camera, and then I've got the other camera, but I'd like to do a 2-angle... Typically, what you see on other video podcasts on YouTube, like typically what they'll do is they'll have a 2 or 3 camera setup, and they'll have like one camera setup as like the large view of the whole, entire group of us sitting there, and then it'll go into specific, one person shots when you're talking, and then pan over and to me when I'm talking. It just gives you a little bit more. It's more of an interesting, look to it. So. But I really want to get into that. I think that's like the next. I feel like, I don't know yet. I haven't heard of it yet. But I feel like YouTube is going to get into its own podcast-only platform, like YouTube podcasts. And it's just its own channel, right? So I don't know if that's going to happen, but a lot of podcasts that I listen to now have YouTube videos. And I think it's a good way to sit and listen, passively if you're at your desk. Like I have 2 screens and I have the TV behind me. Like a lot of times I'll just flick on my TV and put it on a podcast, like the Joe Rogan podcast or whatever. So I don't know. I think it's going to come more and more as a normal part of our everyday lives, like listening to stuff, especially if you're trying to learn something. Yeah. It's a really good way to digest a bunch of information at one time in one sitting. As long as we're putting out, decent information, I think it's definitely worth listening to.
No doubt.
But man, other than that, I don't really think I got anything else. It's been 40 minutes has rolled by in a pretty quick flash. So,
well, thanks for listening. Hey, don't forget, if you haven't done so, go on Facebook or Yelp or some other platform and leave a review for us. Not necessarily about the podcast, but about our services if you've partaken in them and you're happy with them.
Yeah. Leave a comment on our Facebook. Like when I post the full episode on the Facebook, if you just watch it on Facebook or if you just listen to it through there, I really want to get people to listen to it on iTunes because that's kind of the easier way to do it, or SoundCloud or Spotify. Like I really want to try to get people to listen to it on there. Maybe even if you download the Anchor app, if you don't have an iPhone, I think you can download the Anchor app from the App Store, Google Play Store, or iTunes App Store, and you can actually get on the Anchor app, and let me see if I can pull it up really quick while we're talking here. If you download the Anchor app, It's a purple logo. It's got like a little thing on it. If you go on there and you listen to any of our episodes on there, you can leave voice messages or you can just leave a comment. And so that's an easy way for us to know, like, what you think about the show, because we really want to, gain some interest on here and grow the audience. I think right now we've just over, let's see, we have over 1,000. This thing on the internet is messed up. I don't know what's going on. We have over 1,000 plays from all of our episodes. So it's 1,074 total plays from, let's see how many episodes we have.
Yeah, or what, 24?
I think so. I think it's like, we haven't really, it doesn't have they're not numbered, but yeah, there's probably 24, 25 episodes in there. So that's not bad. The average about 20 something, per episode. Which could be way better, but we just need your feedback. Like, what are we doing wrong, or what would you guys like to hear more about? I know that we had a lot of interest when we posted some stuff on Facebook, and maybe we'll kind of go back to that. But it doesn't capture the information if you don't go and subscribe. So you have to subscribe either through iTunes or Spotify. But if you need help with that, give us a call. We'd show you how to set it all up on your phone so you can listen to it more often. And then that's pretty much it, though, right?
That's it.
Well, we appreciate you guys very, very much. We love to hear from you guys whenever we can. And it's super important for us to, put out good information, and we want your support. And we really, really appreciate it. So if you want to reach us, where we're at on Facebook. You can send us a message through there. You can text us. Our number's on the website. Or you can reach out directly and call us. Our numbers are on there. So until the next episode, we really appreciate it. Check us out at www.sanantoniorealtypros.com. If you're looking for the podcast, it's San Antonio Realty Pros Podcast on iTunes. See you guys later.